Good morning, my dear colleagues at the Faculty of Arts and Letters. Welcome to Mind Care Matters, securing and safeguarding teachers and health and mental health well-being. This is a three-part webinar organized by the UST Arts and Letters Faculty Association, or ALFA, in collaboration with the Office of the Dean and the Counseling and Career Office of the Faculty of Arts and Letters. We are live via official Facebook page of Alpha and Alpha YouTube Live. To start formally our program, Assistant Professor Lian C. Javier, member, Alpha Board of Directors, will lead the prayer followed by the singing of the national anthem.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to be among friends and colleagues in the next 3 days, albeit virtually. In this time of uncertainty, we ask for courage that we may withstand the challenges brought about by these unfamiliar times. The past 6 months has created a toll not only on our physical health, but likewise on our emotional and mental well-being. We reach our hand to you as we pray that you shower us with your peace. As you have calmed the storm by your hand, take away the storm of worry that has engulfed many, and bless us with faith, hope, and fortitude. At this time when we are advised to keep our distance from others, help us find ways to reach out to those in need of our encouragement and ask for reassurance if we are the ones in need of it. Make us pillars of strength to those around us. When we are aware that our troubles may take time to be addressed, remind us that we are not alone in this difficult journey. We ask that you comfort those who have lost loved ones during this time of the pandemic. Heal those who are physically, spiritually, emotionally, and mentally suffering because of the current health crisis. As we hear from the experts in the field of mental health, help us to listen with an open mind and heart. May we hold on to the invaluable knowledge that we shall gain from this webinar series. May we become living witnesses of your genuine love and divine wisdom as we go about our daily lives with our family, friends, and students. Amen. In the name of the Father, and
Sa silanganan, alam ng puso, sa libig ko'y bukay. Lupang hinirang, kuya ka ng mag-ibig, sa manlulupit, di ka pasisingin, sa lagatang ito, sa simulat, sa langit ang baka, ay nilatang hula at awit sa maglalagay na mahal. Ang isang ng patawad, tuwing nabuhay na nakikinig, ang bituin na parang ng kailan, ang kalimang bibig, lumalakaran ang marating ang sentao, ay langit sa amin ito. Magbigayan ang pantay ng namin, ang mga kay ng dahil sa'yo.
To give his opening remarks, please welcome the President of ALFA, Professor Job Jim S. Aguas, PhD.
Good day, fellow faculty members of the Faculty of Arts and Letters. On behalf of the officers of the Arts and Letters Faculty Association, I welcome you all to this webinar entitled Mind Care Matters, Securing and Safeguarding Teachers' Mental Health and Well-Being. During our Faculty General Assembly, one of the things that was brought up is our mental health during this pandemic. While we are always concerned with the well-being of our students, sometimes we tend to overlook our own. Perhaps because that is our nature as teachers. We are like candles that must burn themselves in order to give light to others. As teachers, even in normal times, we know that there are many people who rely on us, who expect us to do our job the best way we can. Our students, their parents, the administration, and even the support staff. We have enormous tasks and responsibilities, and there's always expectation and pressure to be the best and shine brightest in order to give light to others. But during this pandemic, a dark moment in our life, we are expected to shine all the more. This expectation and the fact that many people rely on us do not just add more pressure on us, it actually causes some psychological, emotional, and mental concerns and even problems. The daily tasks we do at home are causing enormous burden on our part because work and home become intertwined that we can no longer feel the comforts of our homes, but instead the pressure of our work. The institutional requirements which we normally address during our work time have encroached on our family time. We all need to adjust to the new situation, but unlike any other situation, we need to learn how to make the adjustments on the fly. We feel like being thrown into the sea and expected to learn how to swim and survive at the same time. All these and all other concerns could actually make our light dim, and when not addressed, the candle in us could burn out and can no longer give light to others. It is therefore necessary that we also address our own well being, especially our mental health. The candle can bring light to others if it continues to burn, but it must be protected from other sources of heat so that it continues to burn in itself instead of being consumed by other things. During our first board meeting, this is the concern and need that we addressed. And in response to this need, we conceptualized this webinar. And since this is a pressing need, we prioritize this over the other matters and projects that we envision for the faculty members. We are here to serve the interests of the Faculty Association, and we think that we can fulfill that mandate by helping one another. This project, however, will never be possible without the partnership with the Faculty of Arts and Letters Dean's Office through the support of our Dean, Professor Marilu Madrunio, and the Counseling and Career Office of the Faculty of Arts and Letters, represented by our dedicated guidance counselors, who will also be our speakers facilitators, Ms. Angeli Bautista, Ms. Christine Cristobal, and Mrs. Carmen Sunico Quesada. We are also grateful for our two other speakers who accepted our invitation to share their knowledge with us, Dr. Dinah Nadera, President of the Foundation for Advancing Wellness, Instruction, and Talent, and Mr. Renz Christian Argao of the College of Science Department of Psychology. This webinar is facilitated by our ALFA Vice President, Dr. Veronica Tarayo, the project head or convener of this project, and directed by Mr. Emmanuel Jeric Albela. So thank you very much, and we hope to learn some insights from this seminar and learn from one another. God bless and always stay safe.
Thank you, Professor Aguas. That's absolutely correct. Now we proceed to our first talk of the webinar, Mind Your Mind. And our esteemed speaker is Dr. Dinah Palmera P. Nadera, MD. Dr. Dinah Palmera P. Nadera, MD, heads the Foundation for Advancing Wellness, Instruction, and Talents, or better known as AWIT. an organization devoted to research and capacity building for the cause of mental health that she and her husband established in 2009. She is currently the resident psychiatrist at the UP Diliman Health Service and a research project leader for analyzing mental health in the Philippines, perception, access, and delivery at the Ateneo School of Medicine and Public Health Center for Research and Innovation. A fellow of the Philippine Psychiatric Association, she engages in different mental health activities for government and civil society organizations. She graduated from the University of Santo Tomas with a degree of BS Psychology. Subsequently, she completed her medical education at the Virgen Milagrosa University in San Carlos City, Pangasinan. Furthermore, she obtained her Master of Science in Epidemiology, Public Health from the University of the Philippines, Manila, and Master of International Mental Health from the University of Melbourne, Australia. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Dr. Dinah Palmera P. Nadera, MD.
Hi, good morning to everyone. And
Good morning.
thank you very much for this kind invitation. It's always a pleasure to be with guys from UST. At syempre, lagi akong kinakabahan kapag naimbitahan ako sa ganitong pagkakataon. So, first, congratulations to ALFA for taking into consideration the minds of your teachers, those who also take care of the brains and minds of the students. Basically, you are doing what is asked of you in the mental health law, which is actually providing mental health promotion in the workplace, because an educational institution is also a workplace. So, to begin with, so this lecture is actually something that took a little long for me to complete, yung PowerPoint presentations. Not only because it's a little difficult to already to talk to people about how they should be taking care of their minds. Kung titingnan kasi natin, we all have, we can just search the internet, and basically there are several pages that would lead us to how we should be, what we should be doing, in order to take care of our mental health. But minding our mind is really the first step to the entire human development, yung ating wellness as a whole. So what exactly is the current situation we are in? We are teaching remotely, and this is a transition. So kumbaga sa developmental milestones, we were never ready for this. We are ready for change, of course. We are in the educational system. There's always new knowledge, but this kind of arrangement, we're teaching remotely, work from home, is quite new. And for us who are working from home, we have already been working at home on top of that, So we do, especially women, we do household, we take care of our families, we take care of our children, we take care of our parents. And then we come, we just, parang 90 degrees lang, then you are in your desk attending a Zoom meeting, webinars, you go for online courses, and this is how it is during the pandemic. And then people ask us to make reports, to submit course packs, and we are pressured with a lot of deadlines. And our calendar is always filled. And then siguro, fun time during the webinars will be we take screenshots of us, meeting online. The pressures of remote teaching, as I mentioned, is actually causing new work arrangements and different family and home arrangements. And then there's social isolation, and then there's also the usual the lack of the usual supports. Dati we would be able to talk to friends, meet for snacks, meet for lunch, but all of these things are gone. So much so that our mental health is impacted, and that the UN has already warned us of a global mental health crisis because of the pandemic. Whenever I talk of mental health, I always think of this kind of framework. I always think of mental health from a public health perspective, from a lens that is coming from um, mental health as a fundamental component of health in general. And I always look at mental health as an investment in mental capital and therefore a contributor to economy, a contributor to national development. That's why investing in mental health is investing in national development. And mental health is also a right. No, you have health is a basic right. Mental health is part of health, and therefore we all have the right to mental health. So this is the lens, okay, that I always bring in when I talk about mental health, and this is where I'm going to come from when I talk of what it is, what does it really mean for us to take to mind our minds. First of all, mental health services are an essential part of all government responses to COVID-19. Mental health services does not only mean that we look after those who are showing signs of mental health problems. Mental health service also includes mental health promotion and protection of mental health and our protection of mental capital. So I already mentioned that there is a legislative framework on why all universities, all educational institutions should be doing mental health promotion, such as what you're doing at ALFA. Just to mention the specific chapter and the sections in the RA. Now, what actually has been happening during the ACQ? Nung kasagsagan ng March, April, May. So this is something I wrote in the middle of the ECQ, the first time that there was really very strict protocols. So ngayon ko lang napansin ang masayang sinag-araw habang sumasalubong ang halimuyak ng isinasampay na labada dahil nasobrahan ng FABCON. So you see, there are new experiences that ECQ has brought us. There are new experiences that the pandemic has brought us. Laundry is an ordinary experience, but the new experience of really being mindful of doing the laundry and appreciating that, you know, you're able to get out in the sun. This is something that has actually been a very refreshing experience for many of us who spent the ECQ as part of as a journey, to reflect on what we actually have, what we start to lose, and what we will have. So let us go back to how we should be taking care of our minds. So the protocol in COVID-19 is basically hygiene. So we are back to the basics. We are back to hygiene. And when we talk of hygiene, we talk about conditions or practices that are conducive to maintaining our health, preventing disease, especially through cleanliness. So ito yung kaalaman sa pagpapanatili ng kalinisan at kalusugan. Personal hygiene has been, at the front of COVID-19, of the pandemic, of the war against pandemic. So we are told to wash our hands, to disinfect, let's not touch our face, no social distancing, cough etiquette, all of this. And if we are sick, we isolate, okay? We must think of ourselves not only as potential victims of COVID-19, but also potential spreaders of the disease. But aside from personal hygiene that COVID-19 has actually reminded us, we need now to look at brain hygiene. This is another aspect of wellness. So in psychology, this would actually be cognitive wellness. But brain hygiene is more than just cognitive wellness. It's more than just improving our mental faculties. It's basically the physical brain that we need to protect. We have to keep the mind and the brains and the nerves healthy, and sleep hygiene is part of brain hygiene. Exercise and even taking 10 minutes or so to practice mindfulness. So you probably have come across reading of on 10 for Zen. And then we also need to to learn some new skills. No, so basically, lifelong learning is also part of brain hygiene. Lifelong learning has been found to be protective also from dementia. Now, what about yung iba pang hygiene? So there's also nutrition or gut health. So we eat healthy by eating a wide range of plant-based foods. So we avoid highly processed foods. Una-una, mahirap na rin yung delivery, no? During the, especially during the early parts of the pandemic. And nutrition and gut health also helps, gives us the opportunity to make a homemade meal. So this is something that we now turn to because we rarely go out to eat in restaurants. We rarely go out to get our meals from the canteen. So we're made to cook our meals at home, and this is actually a healthy way of minding our mind. Okay, first, you are mindful of the things that you prepare for your own nutrition, the things that you take in. And then there's mental and emotional hygiene. In mental and emotional hygiene, we talk about resiliency, we talk about coping, we talk about reading also, not only reading for our intellectual or professional advancement, but reading some inspirational stories. Journaling, meditation, or spending time doing hobbies or creativity is actually part of mental and emotional hygiene. Self-compassion, that kind of positive self-talk, and then that kind of a growth mindset, that is actually a mental and emotional hygiene. And then, so when we talk of social hygiene, what comes to our mind would usually be sexually transmitted diseases, no? Kasi, so there are social hygiene clinics, no? That are, these are hubs, no, for sexually transmitted diseases. But technically, social hygiene is defined as the practice of measures designed to protect and improve the family as a social institution. So how do we now do that? So we maintain social connection. For example, calling a friend, sending them videos or memes, checking in on someone just to make sure that they're fine, and keeping group texts going. These are ways to maintain social connections. Of course, virtual meetings, no, are ways to socially connect, but there could actually be virtual lunch meetups or with work or colleagues, no, work colleagues or classmates if we are in graduate school. And then physical distancing. So dati kasi it's social distancing. Actually, the WHO corrected it and they say it should be physical distancing because physical distancing does not require us to socially isolate. So you see, there's a whole lot of hygiene, no, hygiene areas when we talk of our mind, and each of these areas of hygiene actually contribute to minding our minds. And one of the things that has been troubling, especially to many adolescents, is information overload. So we get a lot of fake news, we get a lot of exaggerated news about COVID-19. And here we need to have some information hygiene. We have to be able to clean up, no, the information, filter the information that we take in. Yes, we need to keep ourselves well informed, but we also need to choose well and credible news sources in order to eliminate or at least diminish, no, yung stresses and the tension and the anxiety that is caused by bad news. Information hygiene does not only mean filtering fake news, it's also actively seeking out positive news. So we have to look for good vibes. Okay, so hindi lang siya nagtatanggal ng negative vibes. And of course, no, never this is the first time that we really talked about essential and non-essential work, essential and non-essential commodities. Okay, so dati we would actually be just buying stuff, okay, but we have actually been more careful and more intentional in the things that we buy, okay. And then wise spending, of course, and stewardship. So the financial gurus would say na if you are starting to lose money, the first thing that you need to do is to protect what you have, because it's also difficult to look, to look for money to add, no, to what you have. So that is what we do when we have um, financial or money hygiene. No? We also protect the little money that we already have through a good stewardship and wise spending. Now, before I talk about spiritual hygiene, there's one slide that I actually missed. It's environmental hygiene. Environmental hygiene would be just decluttering. So the simple way, the simple things that we do to declutter, the simple things that we do to just make our spaces, define our spaces, make our spaces well lit, for example, well ventilated, clean, comfortable. This would be part of environmental hygiene. Now, the most important part that I love talking about when it comes to mental health is spiritual hygiene. Early on, I told a friend that the pandemic has actually provided us the time to go back to the basics. That's hygiene. And more than going back to the basics, it's pagbabalik loob. Pagbabalik loob sa mahalaga. So ano ba yung mahalaga? Pagbabalik loob sa katawan mo, alagaan mo, pagbabalik loob sa pamilya mo, sa bahay ka muna, pagbabalik loob sa mga sa pagkikipagkapwa. So you check on other people. Pagbabalik loob din sa Diyos. So suddenly you become reflective of what is actually happening in the world, why are these things happening, and what's going to happen in the future. I would like to connect spiritual hygiene with the definition of mental health. And this is a framework that my husband and I have actually been, talking about and trying to construct. We call this values in mental health, or halagahan sa lusog isip. When we talk of spirituality, we basically talk of virtues. Some may be agnostic, some are religious, but regardless if what your denomination is, or regardless if you believe or don't believe in God, in a higher being, you of course believe in basic values and virtues. So kindness, compassion, all of these are concepts and values and virtues that we agree on. So if we're going to look at the definition of mental health in the mental health law, RA 11036, there would be 5 components of mental health. So we all want mental health. Okay, we all want to keep a healthy mindset, a positive mindset. And the first component of that definition would be realizing one's own abilities and potentials. And it has something to do with self-image. So confidence and humility are the values that we need to develop in order to create a good self-image. So yes, we are confident, we believe in what we can do, but we are also humble enough to accept that what we cannot do and ask help from other people. The other area of mental health is coping adequately with the normal stresses of life. And here we have to develop the values of endurance and courage. Okay. So while it is true that we withstand whatever difficulties we have, it does not mean that we just stick there. We also need to have the courage to face these circumstances and see what we can change. And if there's nothing that we can change, or if there's not much that we can change, so how will this actually benefit us? So that's also a courage. We have to think of ways on how the negative events can also generate positive outcomes. And then there's resilience. Displaying resilience in the face of extreme life experience is another component in the definition of mental health. So we talk about the values of fortitude, tibay, tatag, and optimism. That optimism is hopefulness, in the future. And then, of course, mental health talks about productivity And in terms of productivity, we talk about industry, we talk about diligence, and we talk about creativity. And a person with mental health is able to contribute to the community. So here we develop the values of a sense of purpose by trying to find ways where we can actually serve and making our lives purposeful. Now, being in the teaching profession, of course, we already know that what we are doing is something novel. And I think this is one advantage, no, for us who are finding difficulties in the things that are required of us to do. If we just need to remind ourselves the higher purpose of the things that we are doing, then maybe we can find that inspiration to and motivation to continue to do what we need to do. Now, you might be wondering, nasa na dito yung mind your mind, no? Basically, this is it. We talk about mental health, we talk about our mind. We define mental health in a very technical manner, and this is the definition of mental health according to the mental health law. And in order to develop all of these areas, no, in the mental health definition, we need to develop all of these values also. Confidence tempered by humility, endurance balanced with courage, fortitude and optimism, industry and creativity, and service and purposefulness. Now, we talk about self-care. So, minding our mind. Okay. So, before we can even help other people, we have to help ourselves. You cannot give what you don't have. No? Of course, we often hear that. But what could be practical ways of, caring for ourselves? No? Particularly for women. Hindi naman I'm not saying that men, no, these are not applicable to men, but really, there's a lot of demand ngayon, no? Pressure on women. So we talk about self-care because we are into new work arrangements, new family and relationship arrangements. So one of the practical things that I've actually found is trying to look at areas, no? Hindi naman talaga separated. All of these areas will actually interface. But a way to like compartmentalize, okay, in order for us to be more objective of these different areas. So in terms of work, so we dress up like you would go to an office, and then just wearing some clothes that you don't wear often, and then starting to close laptops earlier than usual. Because at work, no, if you're going home at 5 o'clock, you probably are closing your laptop already at 4:45, exactly 5 o'clock. But when you work from home, it's difficult to do that. No? Laging merong tumutuloy. No? Earlier, I was talking to the organizing team that what we have actually, what has worked for us is scheduling responses, email responses. For example, you know that you need to respond to emails, and in the morning, you know that you might actually get overwhelmed with several emails. Tapos you're supposed to be writing or attending a meeting, but you're answering emails. And then people email you at any time of the day, and then they expect you to respond, no? So one practice that we've actually found helpful is scheduling the responses. So even if you responded at 2 a.m. because you couldn't sleep, the response must be out at 8 a.m. Because if you respond at 2 a.m., then the conversation goes. Tuloy-tuloy siya. And then the other compartment is on relationships. Okay, so these are just practical tips. You already know, but we already need to be reminded. No, take time to spend quality time with family, catch up with friends online. Already mentioned this a while ago. Okay, so it's very necessary to really be in touch, no, with people we haven't been in touch with for a long time because we are in similar experiences. So it gives us that sense of connection. And then leisure, we must never forget leisure. We must never neglect the fact that we have hobbies that we have not been able to do, and now we have, we probably have time to do it, but we make time to do it also. And then go back to what we used to love, plantings. Ang daming mga plantitas and plantitos, no? So people are going back to gardening, people are going back to crochet, People are going back to cross stitching, writing poems. So all of these are actually very important activities also for our mental health. And of course, the personal, no, the physical. So we talk about nutrition, we talk about exercise, we talk about sunlight, okay, and we talk about the practice of meditation or mindfulness. Now, I'm not going to do a mindfulness workshop, but really, mindfulness is very important this time. Hindi siya uso lang, no? Why is mindfulness suddenly very popular these days? Mindfulness talks about the intention, no, to be attentive with a non-judgmental attitude. So you have the components of intention, attention, and attitude. Okay. So mindfulness is being reflective of everything that's happening. Mindfulness is being in the present. Now, bakit ito nagiging important ngayon? Because the future is so uncertain. Because we are not really sure of what's going to happen. No? Ano ba yung next ECQ, GCQ, GS, we don't know. Ano bang mangyayari after this remote learning? One SEM, one academic year, we also don't know. For us in the mental health field, no, telepsychiatry, telepsychotherapy, after ba nito, are we going back to our clinics? Some of us have found it comfortable, no, to already do telepsychiatry, teletherapy. So things are going to change. And mindfulness is actually very relevant these days because it's the present that we must really be looking at, no, and trying to really appreciate, no, being thankful for what we currently have. So this kind of attitude, no, this kind of awareness actually will make us yung pagbabalik loob nga, will make us cherish, no, the life's lessons, actually make us realize that there are life lessons. I already mentioned this, no? So mindfulness is living reflectively. We talk about intention, we talk about attention, and having a non-judgmental attitude. So for us who are not actually into meditation or into mindfulness, no, what are the ways that we can actually practice mindfulness? So you always seek to be awake and aware, and you consider the needs of others. So being sensitive, you know, being mindful of the needs of other people. You keep a pace of grace. Do not allow emotions and impulses to rule you. You cultivate your spiritual awareness with daily reflection, and you continue to learn because there's so much to learn. You know, when you want to learn, when you are a lifelong learner, you are like always open to possibilities and always open to the suggestion of other people and things that you can learn from not only people but also events. Now, these are some helpful apps for mental health and psychosocial support, no, that we have found useful. So you might want to visit and check. No, there are others, but these are the ones that are commonly used by the students, no, that I work with. So Stop Breathe Think is about meditation, breathing, no, exercises. The Shine is actually dealing with anxiety and depression. And then there's mindful.org that has ready audios for you to do the exercises with. And then there's a Headspace, no, it's also about self-compassion, and it actually is also a way to monitor, no, your mood also. So just as a disclaimer, no, I'm not promoting these sites or these apps for any financial benefit. Okay, so the WHO also has this publication, no, Doing What Matters in Times of Stress. So it actually talks about grounding. Okay, it talks about unhooking. No, if we have negative thoughts, how can we release ourselves from getting hooked into these negative thoughts? It talks about self-compassion. It talks about being kind not only to other people but also to ourselves. And one important exercise here is the values, no, acting on values. No? Yung acting on values is similar to the values framework, no, that I presented earlier. When your values are not congruent with what is happening, then there's a kind of discomfort that you feel and your mental health is impacted. So this is the kind of exercise that you might want if your values seem to be, if you seem to be deviating from your values. So there are exercises that help you go towards your values. Now, this is actually the last slide, no? So, isa-isip ang isip. So basically, what did I talk about? I basically went through just some concepts, no, on how we can mind our minds, and also with that emphasis that minding our, there's no single way, no, there's no protocol, there's no parang there's no step one, step two, yung ganun ba na the things that we do to mind our mind, it really depends, no, on our current situation. It depends on what we need. It depends on our social support. It depends on predispositions. No, there may be genetic predispositions, but we have to remind that minding our mind is not just about the brain, not just about the emotions. It's also about our bodies, about our spirit. It's about our environment. It's about money. It's about the food that we take. So everything is contributory. That's why gawin natin siyang isa, no? So, last night, my husband and I were talking about this concept ng minding your mind. No? Isa, isip ang isip. Gawin nating buo ang konsepto ng isip. Yung kabuuan natin, our whole being, no, must really have this kind of smooth interplay for us to have our whole our mind, no, whole. The other thing that my son has always reminded me is mangarap ng malalim. So you see that we should never lose hope. We should always think that there's a better tomorrow. Maybe not in our lifetime, but certainly tomorrow is going to be better. Okay, so with this, I end my lecture, and I would be glad to ask to answer some questions. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dinah P. Nadera, MD, for the insightful talk. And I believe that all of our viewers and our listeners learned so much. I alone learned new things and new terms and new ways in order to maintain our mental health. And now we open our forum. Kindly send or type your question in our FB page and YouTube chat box. And here's our first question, Doc Nadera.
Yes.
Question from Dr. Melanie D. Turingan. How can we know if we are still mentally sane in the new normal?
Okay. You know, when we talk of mentally sane, kasi we usually associate this with a diagnosis, ano? Yung insanity nga, kaya ginamit yung sane because there's insane, no? Diagnosis. What we must always remember is there are ways. First, no, even if you have a mental health diagnosis, you can be mentally healthy. Okay, so let's go back to the definition of mental health. For example, do you know your limitations and and what you can do? Check. Okay. Can you cope with the daily stresses of life? Okay, yes. Okay. So are you productive? Yes, you're productive. Are you resilient in the face of this pandemic? Yes, you are. Okay, do you have is everything that you're doing purposeful? Yes. You are doing some service? Yes. So this concept of mental health, okay, must be a separate concept dun sa not having a mental illness. Because mental health does not mean the absence of mental illness. Mental health means you have those 5 components. So, yeah. Let's talk about mental sanity, no, as having those 5 components, even if you have a diagnosis.
And here's our next question from the Department of English, from Ma'am Maria Regina P. Arriero. What is mental well-being, and what are some steps to take to improve one's mental health and mental well-being?
Okay, I think I partly answered that already with the earlier question. So, well-being is a state. Okay, it's a state of where you are. So, mental well-being, it's a state of your mental wholeness. So basically, yun ulit. I go back to the 5 components. And how do we promote our well-being? So as I said, there's no hard and fast rule. There's no single way or a protocol or, steps, no, na yun to promote our mental well-being. Maraming bagay. But then we have to remember that being Filipinos, no, we have the ginhawa framework. Yun yung mental well-being natin. Ang framework natin ng mga Pinoy sa mental well-being is the ginhawa. And this has several components. So one of the components is physical well-being. One of the components is environment. No? One of the components is cultural. One of the components is rights. No? So we have all of those coming together, and then we have our mental well-being.
Our next question is from Melissa Angela D. Gomera from the Department of History. How to keep mind healthy and free from negative thoughts?
Yeah, okay. Free from negative thoughts, baka mahirap yon. But having negative thoughts does not always mean that your mind is not healthy. Okay, parang anxiety yan eh. When you are anxious, you are concerned that something wrong might happen. Diba? That's a negative thought. But we must not get rid of that negative thought, but use it for us to be prepared. No? So you are anxious, that's why you prepare for an exam. Earlier, we were anxious, that's why we had to do technical rehearsals. Right? So I think we have to make, first, we have to like take a step back and check, is this anxiety going to be useful for me? Is this negative thought going to be useful for me? Then if it is of good use, then make use of it. But what if it hooks us already? No, paano pag nandun ka na lang, no, nakalugmok ka na, parang wala nang ibang nasa utak mo kung hindi yon, no? Of course, we need to reach out to other people because, it's difficult for you to get out of that hook. Let's reach out to other people. Let's remember the good times that we were able to survive something that was difficult. These are just a few things. No? There are other things. But we also hang on to something that is most certain sa atin. Because negative thoughts happen when things do not go the way that we expect. So, ma-realize natin na hindi pala permanent ito or hindi pala walang certainty. So we go back to something that's very certain and then we find some refuge in that to help us. No? Mahirap pag tayo-tayo lang.
And here's another question from Sir Emil Sarmago. What can you say about the notion called toxic positivity?
Well, I'm not sure what this notion is all about. So, yung toxic positivity, no? Kasi ngayon kasi lumalabas yan, no? Pero ang mas gusto ko kasi siyang sabihin ang mas gusto kong interpretation dyan, no? Sa toxic positivity na yan, is that, that state where you start to think, alam mo yun, parang pinipilit mo na lang na positive lahat when in fact you really need to accept muna what is there and act on it. Now, toxic positivity may actually be positive or may actually be negative, no? It becomes, parang toxic positivity may actually be useful, and sometimes it's not useful, or helpful and not helpful. Now, when does it become not helpful? Okay. So the mere fact that it's toxic, definitely hindi helpful. No, walang too much na helpful, okay? Pero when does it become helpful? When you realize that you have toxic positivity and then somebody you realize also that hindi naman totoong positive to, but you're just using this facade to get away from something that you cannot deal with. Okay, when that realization comes, and it becomes useful also because you just need to deal with these things.
And here's another question from Ma'am Christina Espiritu. When is the right time to talk to a mental health professional like psychiatrist or psychologist?
When is the right time? I don't know, pero ikaw ang makakapagsabi when it is the right time. If you have questions and talking to a mental health professional is something that you would consider, just go for it. Okay, pero technically, no, clinically, okay, kasi baka this is in the context of a consultation, no. Clinically kasi, kapag ka persistent, no, yung negative thoughts, and no matter what you do, persistent siya for more than 2 weeks to 1 month, then it's time for you to talk to a mental health professional. When you've done everything that you know na pwede, but you're not yet okay, then you have to talk to a mental health professional. When you think that you are starting to hurt yourself and other people, or think of hurting yourself and other people, then talk to a mental health professional. In the Philippines kasi, wala kasi tayong financial mechanisms for seeking the help of a mental health professional. That's why it's more difficult, no? But in places where it is free, no, at any time that they feel they're not okay, they already talk to somebody.
Thank you, ma'am, for that. And here's another question from Ma'am Janet C. Atutubo from the Department of History. What to do if anxiety, fear, panic, and sense of uselessness is so strong, especially when waking up during supposedly a night's sleep?
Okay, so anxiety, fear, all of the low energy when you in the morning, that is one of the minor signs, no, of depression, no. I'm not diagnosing you online, ha, pero isa yon, no, sa mga signs, no. So let's see. Ang pinaka practical kasi is, no matter how heavy you feel, you get up and be active. You do something. First 5 minutes, you keep moving. This is a practical tip, no? You get out in the sun early in the morning. Okay, you pray if that's your routine. You look for something to think about. That's your routine. You just try. You just keep moving. So physical activity is very, very important. Good nutrition is very, very important. Okay, but of course, again, if this persists, then maybe you have to talk to someone. If you're not sure you need a mental health professional, just someone that you can trust and you feel comfortable talking to.
And here's another question from Sir Elaine Jomari G. Santos from the Department of Legal Management and Economics. Why do I need to mind my mind, and what are the best coping mechanisms?
Okay, we all need to mind our mind, because minding our mind is part of our health, no? When we mind our mind in order to, as I said, if I'm going to look at the framework, we mind our mind because it is healthy to mind our minds. We mind our mind because it is protecting our mental capital, no? You know, you are intelligent, you are in a university, you teach, or you do whatever you do. Capital mo yan, capital yung utak mo. So you need to mind your mind in order to protect that capital, in order for you to have better economy, better development, okay? So you mind your mind also because you have the right to. Karapatan mo yan, okay? And you just don't waive your right to mind your mind. So these are the reasons why we need to mind our mind. Now, what are the best coping mechanisms? Again, mahirap, no? Mahirap magsabi. Kasi may mga coping mechanisms tayo that will work well for us but not for others, no? Yung iba, they will keep quiet. Yung iba, they will talk to someone. Yung iba, they will listen to music, you know. Iba-iba. Ang important siguro is, whenever we think of a coping mechanism, we must remember that it's not going to hurt ourselves nor hurt other people. Yung the way that we cope. Pero I'm sorry, I don't have very clear answer to that. Marami. Maybe I can make some notes and post, no, if this question appears in your Facebook page.
And here's another question, Doc, from Ma'am Marivic Tanedo from the Department of Literature. What simple activities can be done if we are experiencing panic attacks?
Okay, so first, no, when you have a panic attack, if this is a real panic attack, there's also this feeling of some dread is going to happen. may nararamdaman ka physically, no? You probably have tingling sensations, probably have rapid breathing, probably have a increased heart rate, you probably are perspiring, okay? So one of the things that has been found to be useful, no, by evidence is grounding. Grounding means you stop and you look around you. So kapag you go through therapy kasi they teach you, no, what are 5 things that you see. Okay? And these are also mindfulness exercises. Tell me 5 things that you see, 4 things that you hear, 3 things that you feel, 2 things that you smell, 1 thing that you taste, no? Or kahit anong sensation. Pero it usually starts with 5 things that you see. Okay, you get grounded. Okay, so I am here. Okay, this is happening to me. Okay, and the next is also breathing, no? Maraming breathing techniques, no? Ako kasi I feel comfortable dun sa force because it's easy. Kasi ang experience ko kasi if I start breathing and counting to 1 to 20, 1 to 10, I lose track, no? Pagdating pa lang sa 5, nakakalimutan ko na yung pagbibilang. So I usually do the force na breathing, no? You breathe through your nose, 4 counts. And then you hold your breath, 4 counts. And then you exhale through your mouth, 4 counts. And then hold 4 counts. And then slowly breathe. Hold. Exhale. Hold. And I do that 4 times. So madali siyang tandaan. 4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold, times 4. That should help us regulate our breathing. Kasi rapid breathing kapag panic attack. Now, you don't remember that when you are in panic. Right? Kasi nagpa-panic ka eh. That's why it's important for us, those who are, more anxious, to start doing that, mastering it sa gabi before we go to bed and before we stand up, probably after our morning prayer. We just sit and we do the forced breathing. Or when we're doing something, kakabahan ka, before getting into a classroom, okay, you don't have to do it 4 times, but para lang maging automatic siya. And so when you have this panic attack, it comes naturally. Pero marami pang ibang techniques, ha. I just found this kasi easy and useful and practical. Any other question?
And here's another question from the Department of Economics from Ma'am Eloisa R. de la Cruz. How can we avoid Alzheimer's? Is Alzheimer's curable?
Okay, so there is no known cure for Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, okay? So there is no known cure for it, but there are ways to prevent it. So ang sinasabi ng research is, basically, the ways to prevent the other lifestyle diseases would apply in Alzheimer's prevention. So what are these lifestyle diseases? So this would be smoking, maintaining your weight, okay, controlling your hypertension, yung sugar, okay. And then also important is lifelong learning. So there's this concept of neuroplasticity, that your brain can constantly actually create pathways, neuronal pathways para natututo ka. What people say is, what research has found is, if we are continuing to learn something new every day, okay, that is actually preventive sa dementia. Not exactly Alzheimer's, but dementia in general. So lifelong learning is important. Okay, and as I said, the lessening of all of the risk factors like smoking, obesity, hypertension would actually prevent dementia, and also increase in physical activity would prevent dementia. Now, very important also is socialization. So it's important for the older population to have groups, to keep socializing. This also lessens dementia. In terms of nutrition, madaming lumalabas na mga vitamins. Pero ang madalas na nakikita sa literature would be the omega-3 fatty acids. So vitamin E, vitamin B, these are neuroprotective. Yun ang lumalabas sa mga nababasa natin.
And Ma'am Christina Espiritu says, thank you po, Doc Dina.
Yeah.
And also Ma'am Marivic Tanyeda says, thank you, Dr. Nadera.
Yeah.
And Ma'am Anna Ganga says, mind your mind because it is your capital as a teacher. I love it.
Yeah, ang nakakalimutan lagi natin is we start investing in mental health. No, you invest in an educational plan, you invest sa life plan, but we also need to make investments sa mental health natin. Because that is one thing that we have, no? We may lose money, pero we still have, our minds intact, and we just need to protect it really.
Yeah, Ma'am Annalisa Yanga says, thank you, Dr. Dina, and very helpful, useful, and practical ways to mind my mind.
Yeah.
And here's another question from Sir Emil Sarmago from the English Language Department. Do you adhere to the nature of cognitive restructuring and aromatherapy?
Okay, when I say do I adhere to it, yes, I believe that these are helpful. But I have to admit, I am not an expert. I don't practice this stuff, no? So why are these helpful? What makes me think that this may actually be helpful, no? For some, because of neuroplasticity, yung cognitive restructuring, no? And then yung aromatherapy, because it has something with your sense. It actually is mindfulness also, no? It is a sensory stimulation, no? So, totoo naman kasing may calming effect yon, no? So, yes, there is value, but research will say that there's value in preventing the progression of mild mental health problems, but maybe not enough evidence yet for them to be considered as major interventions. Sorry.
Are there some more questions?
Yeah. People are actually siguro well this is UST, so I'm I'm comfortable in talking about spirituality. So maybe you ask me, so yung sinasabi natin kanina na confidence and humility, no? I mean, these are like, ibang concepts. Are there practical ways to actually develop humility and confidence? So yes, no? For example, the practice of humility, I value others' thoughts and feelings. I'm willing to give and receive help. I am a work in progress, that recognition, and I admit my mistakes and learn from them. I recognize that I'm not perfect, and I'm grateful for my gifts. Whatever gift that I have, I'm grateful. So doing this would actually be ways to practice humility, no? So sinasabi natin confidence. So, but these are like abstract concepts. Meron mang practical tips on practicing confidence or developing confidence? Yes, okay. So when you start acting, you act with self-assurance. And then you treat others as trustworthy people. So you're also confident in them. Okay, and then you patiently practice and masters until you master something, no? In order to develop confidence. You appreciate and express fully your talents and ideas. That is practicing confidence. So even if these values seem abstract, okay, there are practical ways through which we can actually develop them also. And that's part of minding our mind. Siningit ko na lang yon kasi yun yung medyo mahirap na konsepto eh. Kasi sabi niya, napaka-abstract naman yan.
Right.
Yeah.
And according to Sir Emil, thank you so much, Doc. And perhaps, there's another one question just got in from Ma'am Sheila Gabe. Good morning. I'm from the Department of English. Apart from the webinars like this, what ways or approaches an educational institution can use or implement to take care of the academic staff's mental health?
Yeah. Okay, now this is a very good question. And I would like to answer it from a systems perspective. For example, webinars like this, okay, they target individuals, right? They target us, no, the faculty members. And then we teach them also how to identify, warning signs of mental health problems. Fine, okay. No, it's a skill that they learn. But if the trainings and webinars are stuck dun sa individual na development ng faculty and staff, it is not as helpful as looking at it from a systems level. So what we mean is, are there support systems for the faculty? So it's good that tomorrow, no, is that tomorrow Renz is going to talk to you about supporting other people. So fine. So from individual, then you have a support. And then are there also policies? Okay, so policies in terms of giving clear guidelines on what they should actually do if a student uses mental health as an excuse for not submitting something. Are there clear policies, no? Are there clear policies about if it's a class na Zoom, dapat nakikita yung mukha, hindi dapat profile picture lang. No, these clear policies, no, may be very simple. Sabi niyo, wala namang mental health yan, it's so administrative. Right. But it gives that faculty member a sense of protection na meron siyang, alam mo, meron siyang backup, no, na kapag nagkamali siya, susuportahan siya because there are policies. No, hindi yung parang mapipinpoint pa siya na siya yung salarin, no? So aside from that also, are there structures, are there offices in the educational system where people can really go to? When I say structures and offices, is there a hub, like a chat hub for faculty? Or is there a hub, like a chat hub for students, where they can just, raise their concerns and believe that one of these days it's going to be addressed? And then, is the university also updating or keeping its staff well informed, no, of the things that are happening, no? Kasi important 'yun sa important 'yun sa faculty eh. Yung faculty ang nire-research niya, ituturo niya. Nakakalimutan niya minsan yung ibang guidelines, no? So 'yun. So again, no, aside from webinars such as this, it's important to put some systems in place.
All
Okay.
right, and that's really wonderful. We love all the questions. And Mom, Dr. Pereña says, thanks to Alpha, God bless us all. And
Yeah.
do we have more questions? You can still freely ask questions via Facebook page and our YouTube live of Alpha. And if there are no more questions, Mom, Dr. Dinah Palmera Nadera, we thank you so much. We learned so much
Oh,
from the practical tips to the multidimensional approaches on hygiene, and at the same time on the different views. I like the last question about putting some policies and hubs for faculty members, so as protection for us, because this webinar is intended for our mental well-being. And
yeah.
I guess they love it as well. That why do we have to mind our mind? Because this is our capital. This is
Yes.
our profession, right? This is our
Yeah.
profession, and we need to really mind our mind. Not only our capital as profession, but of course our coexistence with our family members.
Yeah. It
Right,
makes
and
us
with
better
that,
people, actually.
right. Okay, aside from our right, it is our right, but of course, it is also our capital. And with that, thank you so much, Dr. Dina Pinadera, MD, for those wonderful and insightful lecture and answers to the questions. And if you have more questions, feel free to send your questions to Alpha Facebook page and YouTube Live, and Dr. Nadera will be more than willing to answer them. Or you can also send your questions to AWIT official Facebook page,
Yes.
which is being administered by Dr. Nadera. All
Okay.
right. And the announcement, we would like to invite you tomorrow for our day 2 webinar. We in Well-Being, how we can support and promote the well-being of others. So today, we mind our mind. Tomorrow, we mind others. We support others. On behalf of Alpha, the Office of the Dean, and CCO, we thank you, our dear colleagues, for attending our first day webinar. And to close our program, let's sing our UST hymn.